Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
For joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Lots to talk about, including a primary election on Tuesday in the city. But first, let's meet the panelists, starting with Wendy Wiese, 50% of the Jennifer and Wendy show on the Big 550 KTRS. Bill McClellan from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and STLtoday.com. Ray Hartmann from RawStory.com and the Riverfront Times. And from the St. Louis American, where he's an editor and columnist, Alvin Reid. In just a couple of minutes, Bill will tell folks how they can join us for Donny Bash. But first, I want to ask you about Tuesday. Only 12% of the electorate actually showed up to vote. And we actually have a very weird situation where in the 9th Ward, the aldermanic race includes two individuals, Tina Peel and Michael Gross, who both got exactly 868 votes. Leading that is Michael Browning. We talked about him on this program before. He's the guy who wanted to strip police officers who are pulling over motorists of their firearms. He won, actually, in this race. But what should happen, I suppose, if we have two aldermen who are tied at 868, a do-over or a flip of the coin?
Or a card game or something, a flip of a card. You know, I'm so out of things. You know, half of the block I live on is in the city, the 28th Ward. So I sort of pay attention to the 28th Ward, and Michael Gross is the alderman, and he is a protege of Emil Quito on the east side, the attorney who, among other things, sued me. And so I was talking to Michael Gross the day before the election, and I said, well, you know, pretty clearly this is really between you and Tina Peel, who's also an incumbent. So, you know, Michael Browning, no chance. You know, I have my finger on the pulse that much. I said, so Michael Browning has no chance. And then the results came out. Michael Browning in first easily, and Michael Gross and Tina Peel tied. And I think it ought to be flipping a card or something like that.
Like rock, paper, scissors? I mean, you know, what else? It would be as accurate as anything else.
Well, like when you do recounts, usually when there's millions of votes, as we know, usually the person who is winning ends up winning, okay? Right. But in reality now, if you just did a recount, what are the odds of it coming back 868, 868?
I mean, especially provisional votes coming in.
Here's what I think happened. I think Tina Peel and Michael Gross thought they were in the lead. And with approval voting, you can vote for two. You can vote for three if you want. Yeah. So they told their supporters, get rid of the other guy, vote for Browning. Browning ended up
Charlie, I think you're right. I think your theory's right.
Really
And personally, I looked at it as our viewers know. I've been a big fan of Tina Peel, and I would have been fabulous to hold my calls. But the...
now, what are you muttering over there?
Sorry, my phone is misbehaving. The Tina Peel, I think, is terrific, and I'm wondering if some people watched Channel 9 and decided to vote for her because of me, or watched Channel 9 and decided to vote against her for me. So, I used to have a kiss of death, but seriously, I have no idea what this. I guess you could flip a coin. I don't know.
Well, you know, I thought that she had a better chance because she had so much visibility, thanks to you and others, and she took the strong stand that developers shouldn't get tax breaks. And I thought she'd get rewarded for that. But then, you know, we had some surprises like Brandon Bosley lost and James Page.
But was that really a surprise?
That wasn't
Brandon
a surprise
Bosley?
to me.
That wasn't
because you actually did have some solid candidates in that race. You have four people, so you know that votes are going to go four different directions. And you had people who weren't on the news with people knocked out in the street behind them and carrying on. And he was just carrying a lot into the. And oh, and by the way, The Bosley name just wasn't carrying as much weight as it used to.
Well, name recognition, you know, what is it they always say? As long as you spell my name correctly or whatever. That's no longer the case when it comes to those episodes.
But here we have 12% of St. Louisans come out. Now, it was more than last September when only 6% came out, but that was a little bit different because both of those candidates for aldermanic president would go to the final. So no one wanted to waste their time. But in this case, should we even be talking about St. Louis if the residents themselves don't care enough to go to the polls?
I have to tell you, I usually argue with you about this when this comes up because you say this. I think you're right. I mean, not about maybe not talking about it. It's 12%. I mean, I'm sure maybe it's not a record. That is pathetic. I mean, it really is pathetic.
Maybe,
maybe 88%. I have to say this. I know I don't live in the city, and we'll get all the comments about that. But the 88% who didn't vote ought to like.
Well, maybe the candidates should have had soccer jerseys.
Well, I think
people would have come out.
I really don't understand a number that low.
You know, I'm not so down about a low turnout because it's the people who care.
But 12%
who are making the decisions.
I agree normally, but 12%.
I'm gonna wait.
More people went to the game, the soccer game on Saturday.
Well, okay. I think you have to reserve. I think you have to reserve turnout until we see how many people vote April the 4th. I think some people probably just vote. If there's 3 people or 4 people running and you got to vote for 2, they probably just sat that out instead of like.
Okay.
And if by person, and just real quick, I'll add this. Remember, weren't they supposed to be lined up around the block to challenge Megan Green for president of the Board of Aldermen? She ran unopposed. What happened to all that? You know.
Well, Jack Kotar, who seemed like such a strong candidate to me. I mean, he wanted.
You saw that you had the yard sign.
Safety and trash trucks and potholes. He lost by a large margin.
And it's pretty interesting that Megan Green was unopposed, which is...
Yeah, that's what
Well,
who was the candidate that was supported by Tashara Jones, the mayor, and Megan Green? Tashara Earl, was she the one that came in? She didn't do very well. So, I mean, I guess it depends on...
Moving on. Alvin Reid. KMOX Radio has reported this week that about 25 homeless individuals in downtown St. Louis near the Riverfront are being moved at the very same time the Battlehawks are going to have their first game at the Dome this weekend. The deadline for the removal of these 25 is Friday. And the insinuation in the reporting is they're being moved because of the football game. Do you believe that we're doing a clean sweep to make sure that the football fans don't have to look at our homeless across from the stadium?
Well, I won't insinuate. Yes, that's exactly what is going on. And I think other cities handle this situation the same way. I think that there is you got to go. Now, for 7 days, 10 days, you got to go. Is it Super Bowl week? Is it World Series week? Whatever. You got to go. And on the 11th day, when you come back, we won't have any problem with it. But for right now, you have to go. And I guess they've been offered some places to stay and all that. Now, if I was the Home and Garden show last week, I'm kind of wondering, like, well,
what about us?
What about us? Yeah. So, but no, I mean, it sounds cruel. I don't have a problem with it. I think a lot of other cities handle the situation.
It doesn't seem right. These are human beings. At the same time they're taking down the tents for the homeless, they're putting up the tents for the tailgaters.
That is ironic, but this is, you know, we have to be as realistic as possible right now. When you look at the public perception, the national perception that we all are. I was on an airplane. A lot of people talking about St. Louis. Oh, is it safe? You know, and these are conversations that I overheard. So the word is out there. We don't want perception to become reality. So if this type of tidying up, as awful as it sounds, and it's just icky to think about, these are human beings. We have to be really practical right now.
Well,
and I think
let me
sorry.
First of all, Wendy, you know, the people who go to the Battlehawk games are not tourists from around the country who have a certain image of St. Louis. The Battlehawks, these are local people,
and they're afraid too.
Well, but they ought to understand that there's homeless people living down by the river.
Well, in defense of the Jones administration, the mayor offered all 25 shelter or some sort of housing equivalent 14 of them accepted it, according to Kevin McClellan. 11 said, no, we'll just move along.
And that's what I think makes this a little different, because icky is perhaps a good word.
That's a
for it.
scientific term. You probably have never heard that before.
That's a term of art.
I use that.
And I like icky. I know. And it's really not great. But as you say, it's what cities do. And what I think the Jones administration did that makes it a little different is, to your point, it wasn't just the police coming in and sweeping them, which happens in some places.
No, you can't do that anymore.
Well, but
the
I'm
Ninth
saying,
Circuit Court of Appeals said that if you move someone off public property, you have to offer alternative
well,
housing.
then maybe I'm giving them too much credit. But the fact is that you got to do that. It's a bad situation. It would sure be nice if we were able somehow to focus on long-term solutions, but
we were upset enough about the state restricting state property. So yeah.
Right.
Well, so how is this different, really?
No, you're right.
Were the people worried that we were going to shoot the airplane out of the sky?
No, it was just interesting.
No, you said the people on the plane.
It was just interesting to be an eavesdropper, and that's what I.
Well, I remember when Mary and I went to Graceland, and the guide, as everybody's waiting in line, was saying, "Where are you from?" And the guy said, "New York." "I love New York. Where are you from?" West Virginia, all beautiful mountains, and came to us and said, "St. Louis." And he said, "Oh, you got problems."
Right there in River City.
I said, "You're in Memphis."
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Next topic. Bill McClellan, I want to ask you about the Second Amendment Protection Act, which actually got some attention on 60 Minutes. It's a Missouri law that says that local police officers and law enforcement at the local level at state level, cannot uphold federal statutes if they're more onerous than the local gun laws. They call it the Second Amendment Protection Act. It went in front of U.S. District Court in Kansas City this past week, and it was shot down by Judge Brian Wimes. Do you think it has any chance of resurrecting sometime in the future?
Sure, if it the Republican judges will look at it. I mean, you have to. We're crazy about guns. I mean, the idea that the legislature has decided that juveniles can walk down the street carrying weapons is nuts. But there are judges out there. If it gets to the wrong judges in the Court of Appeals, a panel of 3, you get 2 Republicans, they might well say, yes, this is fine. So I don't think that we have driven a stake through the heart of the Second Amendment law yet.
Well, you may be right. I have roughly the same legal credentials as you do, as the fellow founder, which is 0. And
I'm
so
just trying to remember it's the appellate court.
I would think not. I think that this is not going to survive because it is so blatantly an infringement upon the federal sovereignty, that pretty much federal laws trump. Oh, I guess I should use that word.
Wow.
Well, he used "shot down" as the way he was talking about introducing this by the judge, which I thought was good. But I don't think that the further it goes, it'll just show that Andrew Bailey, our Attorney General, is willing to waste taxpayers' money. I understand he's got to defend the state, but he doesn't actually have to. This isn't going to win on appeal. The state isn't, because you just can't. First of all, it doesn't pass a common sense test that you're telling you're going to defund the local police department if they cooperate with the federal government on gun crimes. Really? I mean, it's just
Well, Ray,
stupid
the
bill.
principle, though, like Oregon has just legalized psychedelic mushrooms.
Right.
Now, that's against all federal law, and, right to die, that's against federal law.
Yeah.
But we look at stuff like that, or at least I do, and I go, hey, I like what Oregon is doing.
Yeah, but
I
that's
like
a different...
But you're telling law enforcement that they can't, you can't help enforce a gun law.
Right.
So,
and you're going to
Machine
defund
Gun
the police.
Kelly and Bob Barker are up in the house with, 18 Thompsons.
And the same people
in
are
your little town, and they say, like, hey, the feds are coming in, but we need your help. Like, we're not going to help you. That's just beyond.
I
But these
agree
are
it's
the
crazy,
same
but
people, these are the same people who go bananas if you talk about defunding the police. So
Yeah, true.
I think Bill brings up a good point.
I do
Because,
too.
you know, there are people on the right who freak out because cities have sanctuary policies that they will not cooperate with ICE or Homeland Security when it comes to immigration, and that the police officers can get in trouble with the local Board of Aldermen or City Council if they do. So it's the same thing, it's the same shoe but on a different foot.
But the Republicans, when it's on that foot, are very much outraged.
Correct.
So it'll be interesting. I don't think, well, we'll see.
Okay.
You're right not to assume that there couldn't be a judge. Right. I do not think that something that it's one thing to talk about, and
well, let me ask you the next question, Ray, and that goes to the pay for police officers in the city. Apparently there was some deal struck that officers and sergeants are going to get $8,000 to $10,000 bonuses, or they're going to get a signing bonus, and their wages are going to go up 8 to 10%. So the starting salary will be up to $54,000. Good move?
Absolutely. It's about time. I mean, and it's, you know, it's not the only answer by any means. And those of us that believe we got to attack the causes of crime, yada, yada, haven't changed my mind on that. But there's no question that we need to pay our officers more and expect more of them and generally treat them better. And so I think that absolutely, and it's enough of a pay raise. It's not some small token bump that it brings the county, the city pretty close, I understand, to the county. And one of the problems, it's not the only problem the city losing police, but one of eliminating that gap is every bit as important as not letting the state get its mitts on control of the
Well, they have a
police
caveat
department.
in there that if the state were to take control, the city could rescind the raise.
Right.
Now, I think that's in there to calm the legislature down, at least for this session, because you have these police officers who are expecting a raise on July 1st.
And they better get it.
And they better get it, because they aren't going to be mad at the administration in the city because their raise is there. They're going to be mad at Jefferson City. So I think you also have a case here where, like, okay, crime is still rampant and you got your raise. All of a sudden, the police will probably start talking about root causes of crime. You know,
Yeah?
you know,
You think?
that's one less excuse we got.
I don't think it's going to help. And I don't think it's going to help because the starting salary is at 54. In Clayton, it's 68. And in Clayton, you can top out after 10 years. You know, after 8 or so years in Town and Country, you're at 87.
They're not going to expand their police force to 300 people.
But
there's only
there aren't that many people applying. That's the problem. Even if you fill every one of those academy classes, you still won't get up to the number of police officers you need in 10 years.
How about this?
And the county...
No,
It's not, because it's not like the county is going to unilaterally disarm, or St. Charles will. They'll just raise their pay.
What is the benefit? What is the benefit of not?
It's got to be more money. It's $16 million a year now.
You want more?
Yeah, I thought you were.
I was just going to ask.
It's too little.
I was just going to ask, when you negotiated a pay raise, was this the way you approached it? No, I get you.
What I'm saying is, think about it. You're young and talented. You can work in the city where it's really tough policing for 54, or go to Clayton for 60.
First of all, you can't use Clayton as a standard.
Wait, you can't use any.
And Clayton's not the highest.
Wait a minute. You can't use any municipality, because you're saying like it's ollie income free. We're only going to have so many police officers in Clayton. You're only going to have so many police officers in Kirkwood.
They can't find enough. There's holes in every...
What number would you
Every
raise
department
it
is
to?
trying to hire.
Charlie,
Okay, and so if Clayton got to the
absolutely. You know what the magic number is?
What's the number?
The number is 71, the same number of dollars, 71,000, that the aldermen just gave themselves.
There you go. That's
No, I'm still getting.
You have to pay the police officer in the city
The point
more
I'm making,
than the
Charlie,
county.
is that if Clayton, Kirkwood,
I agree.
Sunset Hills filled every empty spot they had, you would still, 95% of the police officers in the city would still be in the city. I mean, there aren't that many jobs.
I got to tell you something. I know a senior in college who has a job coming out.
You're not answering my question.
And she's going to
Charlie.
make more than the St. Louis police officer.
But you're making it sound like if I work in the city, I can go anywhere and get a job. After a while, there aren't that many jobs.
There are right now, because there's a national police officer.
But what's the rate in the city? Are we still down 130?
Yeah,
okay.
150.
All right, are we down 130 in Town and Country?
No, well, we're down. Not that many.
In Clayton?
In Clayton?
Yeah, they're looking. They're
not
looking
down
into-
130
But they're not down
officers.
130.
No, but they're one of 92 municipalities.
Well, Charlie, you
okay,
know-
we got to take a break.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can continue after these important announcements. But now that the police have more money, they can join us for Donny Bash. And here are the details.
Hey everyone, I'm Marty Crowder, Member and Viewer Experience Manager right here at 9
I wanna
PBS.
take a loan
I'm so
from
glad to have you with us here tonight as we enjoy the civic conversation with the Donnybrookers. I know I'm always engaged in their conversations. I love their banter or arguments. You know, it reminds me of family, you know. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you're enjoying this. And because of viewers like you, we are able to continue to do the work and produce programs like Donnybrook that you know and you love. We're able to transform living rooms into concert halls and put you in the action, right in the thick of the action of Nature and Nova and all of your other favorites. And one room that we want to put you in right where it's all happening is Donny Bash. So when you become a member, we want to say thank you to you and give you the chance to be right in the room where everything happens. So at the $75 level, one time, you will have the choice between either a ticket to Donny Bash or the mug. The mug is something that you see your favorite Donnybrookers drink out of every single week. I know I love this mug. I personally have it in my cabinet. I absolutely adore it. But also there's that ticket though, and I adore Donny Bash as well. I'm telling you, it is one of my favorite events of the entire year. You don't want to miss it. And it's our way of saying thank you so much when you become a member. So then at the next level of $12 a month, that's the monthly sustaining level. We make it super easy to become a sustaining member. Or you can do one time, $144. You get, it's not a choice. You actually get a full combo of you get the 2 tickets, you get 2 tickets and you get the mug. So 2 tickets and you get to drink from that favorite mug of yours. 2 tickets to Donny Bash, and that event is on June 15th at the Sheldon Concert Hall. The Sheldon Concert Hall, again, one of my very favorite places in all of St. Louis. They don't have a bad seat in the whole house. So give us a call or text GIVE at 800-568-9099 right now. Become a member, or if you're already a member, come on down, get your tickets, enjoy Donny Bash. Right now, let's jump back into the conversation with the Donnybrookers.
Absolutely. And Alvin, what was that beautiful building behind Ermati?
That's the Sheldon.
Yeah.
But because it's kind of blocked, and it's a beautiful building, but I had to say, like, where are we? So, yeah, that was the Sheldon.
And it was the Sheldon, I think, in springtime.
Yeah,
so,
the
yeah.
trees are in bloom.
Nice.
Like in June.
Like in
summer,
June.
Like it
you
will
better
be.
believe it.
So, yes.
Yep.
We will all have maybe lighter clothes on, you know, like a little bit.
Oh,
because,
hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful weather.
I think I'll be wearing this jacket, Alvin.
Probably that tie, boy. That guy there is. You talk about them hallucinogenics in Oregon. They can't be good.
I think of Oregon fondly.
Oh, well, it's a fun time. It's a live broadcast. We have a little open, not an open bar, but a bar that's open prior to the show. Then we have the show, and then we retire for more appetizers and desserts and maybe a hot toddy or two, or cold toddy, cold beer.
Get conversation.
Yes.
Conversation too. I was thinking earlier today when you talk about voter apathy in the elections, and you won't find any apathy at the Sheldon for Donny Bash. Those folks, the 9 PBS family is really, viewers, is really plugged in to what's going on. So if you are like-minded, this is the place you need to be.
It also seems to have more people than voted in the city election.
Yeah,
Which is,
that's sad, but
generally,
true.
Fortunately, the room is pretty much always packed, and with sometimes with regulars and sometimes with new folks.
Yep.
And it's a very it's a great night for us. I
And
can
it's
say
a good
that.
fundraiser.
And you're supporting PBS and Channel 9 PBS, which is not only our program, but all of 9 PBS's amazing programming.
And it's fun to do, and it's the interaction with the audience.
Oh.
And there's no way we can help ourselves from not playing to the crowd. And Mr.
The
Reid,
star.
of course, is
The star.
Right. I mean, you can tell that Alvin has that theater background.
Well, if you're on
It's
stage,
Alvin's.
and I'll tell you what, it's live TV, and when we show, just like some of the clips from past shows, people see themselves on on the clips and they get a
They
kick
have
out
Like
so
right there.
much fun.
Yeah, I said, like they said like
Good
hey,
looking audience.
I got caught on the little clip. I said like yeah, because it was live TV. That actually happened. You know, it's not just a video clip. The night of the show, you were on TV, so that should be enough for you to want to get 2 tickets.
Yeah, you can call or text at that number, and we look forward to seeing you in June. We'll tell you before the end of the show again how you can join us. Okay, Alvin, I want to ask you about a Post-Dispatch report that came out this week, and it said that basically the number of traffic stops and citations and fines have gone down by about 50% in the city of St. Louis over the last 15 or so years. Meanwhile, the number of traffic deaths have doubled. So as the stops, citations, and fines went down, the deaths doubled. I think that obviously means we need to pull more motorists over and hand out some tickets and citations. What do you think?
I think that we do need to pull more motorists over and give out more tickets and citations. I'm not convinced that the two have anything to do with each other, and I'm not a survey scientist, or the people who do this kind of thing can have a way of figuring that out. I'm not ready to say that the two have, you know, something to do with each other. Okay, I think the prevalence of guns in the city is got something to do with the crime problem, but I can't put it all on the prevalence of guns in the city. Kind of the same concept. Makes sense, but until scientifically we study those numbers, I'm not ready to.
You know, you remind me, Alvin, of the tobacco companies from 30 years ago. that they're ready to say that there does seem to be a little correlation here, but we're not quite ready. I mean, it seems so clear on its face that if the police, for whatever reason, are not pulling over people who are roaring through red lights and speeding, that we're going to have more accidents, and the correlation is real. Let me. I wish I could convince you on that.
I'm leaning, like I say, I'm just leaning on what little like statistics knowledge in class, the one I took, which was really hard, by the way.
I stayed away from it.
Look, just rely on your own experience, and that will tell you all that you need to know. Because since the pandemic, we have all had the experience where people seem to be exercising some kind of bizarre death wish when they're on the highway. I see people darting in and out at high rates of speed like I have never in my professional driving career. So that to me is, I'm with you, Bill. That's not a coincidence. It can't be. And of course, the aforementioned situation where we're talking about the fact that we don't have as many police officers
Well, I
as
had
we
no
used
idea
to.
you were a professional driver.
I don't like to brag.
And I'm not a lawyer. Ray, you're hot today.
I had no idea. No, I'm not hot. I agree that it's correlated. I mean, you can't deny whether it's, I mean, it's not the only factor. It gives me a chance to do my commercial about correlation, which is if you install red light cameras, the statistics show that traffic accidents go up. Okay, so just so people, if you're thinking that's the solution, they go up. They get more, it's just a different kind of...
because they're racing through?
You don't, because people... Well, people people jam on their brakes because of the lights and stuff. But no, I think it's clear. And, you know, I mean, none of us here has the answer, but...
No, we do.
Not to pull, well, I mean, well, okay.
We do.
We do.
Pull people over.
Yeah,
well,
pull people over.
Or advocate a 35% pay raise, and don't worry if you get pulled over. No, I think that absolutely that something has to be done within the police department to free the resources, and maybe I just don't know what.
Well, you know, maybe bringing the state troopers. They're really not patrolling the streets like they might have. I will say I saw two interesting tweets this week. One was from Michael Calhoun of KMWX News, who showed a fella without any plates driving right through a red light. That was great. And then David Carson of the Post-Dispatch had the most unusual tweet. He took a photo of a police officer pulling over a speeding motorist on Highway 6440, and that was so bizarre to see that. I think he sent it in to Ripley for the next edition of Believe It or Not.
They give tickets on 44. People do get tickets all up and down.
They do, yeah, they do. That's right.
I haven't got
well,
a
and
ticket.
then, and then you have to.
I haven't either, but I've seen people pulled over.
You have to wonder: is there? I mean, as long as we're talking about statistics, I can't say the word. I've never been able.
I couldn't before.
Stats. Thank you. I've never been able to say the word. But does that have anything to do with the amount of litter that we're seeing, and not just here in this city? I mean, even though I think we have a lot in the city and the county. But everywhere in the country. I mean, the fact that you don't have that police presence, do you think that there's any connection to the littering?
I don't know about that one. I think there's a stronger one about the crime. I don't think, even in the good old days, whenever they were, I don't know that police were pulling over that many people for litter.
Not for litter, no, but I'm just saying a presence. Would that keep you from...
I don't think so, but I do think you've got a point about the deaths. I mean, anybody that drives in the city, all of us are aware of this problem. And
the county.
Yeah, you better stay in your lane.
Let's move to the next topic. Before we do, Wendy, if you're concerned about the litter, I'll have you know that I'm part of a group picking up litter on March 31st and April 1st. And if anyone wants to pick up litter and get a Cardinal pass for the 2023 season, contact me here at 9 PBS. Wendy, I want to ask you about the Gateway Arch. It released figures indicating that visitorship increased 41% in 2022 over 2021. 1.6 million visitors to the Arch grounds and the old courthouse last year. That's still a far cry from the mid to late 90s when almost 4 million people visited. But are you happy that this is at least going in the right direction?
I am happy, and I had been as guilty as many of our fellow residents, and I had not been down there, since the kids were little. And I think when it comes to crime, for whatever reason, or that fear of going downtown that so many people talk about, including my fellow passengers on a flight, I think that the Arch is kind of like an island in their mind. They think of it as being it's a national park, and they feel safe there. But I'm thrilled it's going in the right direction, because it was unfortunate that right around the time that all of the improvements and the redesign and everything was unveiled, COVID. So it's a global phenomenon. People from all over the world come here to see the Arch. So let's just keep pulling it up, I guess.
Absolutely. It's interesting. The Arch, nationally, internationally, maybe is, I don't want to say overrated, but the association with St. Louis is somehow overdone sometimes as far as local people. But I think it's underrated locally. In other words, I don't think we fully appreciate how large a margin there is between the Arch, and you're right, it's an island, but the visitorship of the Arch is a big thing. Frankly, we've struggled forever to sort of connect it to the rest of downtown, and I don't know if we ever will. But having said that, I think it's a good sign. I mean, we talk about correlations and stuff. I think the fact that those numbers are near pre-pandemic levels says that perhaps our tourism and visitorship problem isn't quite as bad as a lot of people think it is, because we have so much negative news about crime. Doesn't minimize the crime problem, but I think it's a good sign.
Well, I think that's not that impressive, because you go 41% the year after COVID. Yeah, people didn't travel. They didn't stay in hotel rooms. They weren't doing anything in 2020, 2021. And 1.6 million, again, that's about half of what we were getting in the 1990s, Ray, when you say that the Arch was separated from the rest of downtown. When it was bifurcated 25 years ago, people had no problem crossing the street to get to the old cathedral or to the Arch grounds. 4 million a year.
Or the Riverfront.
But it was separated, and there's no question.
But now that it's enjoined, we have fewer people.
Well, I think I really do think that people are coming back after the pandemic. And I think the good news is that people are drawn to the Arch. Now, what do people do for the most part when they come to St. Louis, even those of us who are from the area? You go to Cardinal baseball games.
The zoo.
The zoo. You go to the Arch. when you're talking about in the city. Now, those are 3 you got to do when people come in from out of town, all that. So
Well,
it is
you
good
drive
news.
by Charlie Brennan's house.
Well,
I mean,
that.
Yeah, the tour bus.
Charlie,
Yeah.
you've got a problem tonight. I mean, we're all happy that the police got a big raise, but you're furious that it's not bigger. The arch is getting more and more people, and we're happy about it, and you're upset that it's not bigger. I mean, let's do these things incrementally, Charlie. Little bit now, a little bit later.
I'm throwing the whole
Sorry for not being a stenographer for the status quo and the establishment. And
Can I make a point
I mean,
about-
I want the arch to succeed, but I don't want to be Pollyannish about it. I think there is a crime problem. We had a blues recruit who was attacked on
Yes,
it.
we did.
I mean,
Well,
come
no, I
on.
didn't
Yes, we
say
did,
there
but
wasn't.
that-
Wait,
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 And
wait.
how many of you, it's true, Alvin says if we have friends in from out of town, we go there, but how often do you visit with your loved ones on a regular basis?
Well, I mean, I don't need to go up 700 feet in the air.
And our girls,
Very often.
right, once
I
the
mean,
girls
I
were
don't-
in college,
I don't
we
need
didn't
to
go
look
to the arch anymore.
it's May. It's time to go back to the. I mean, you know.
Well, you know what? Maybe we need, like I suggested years ago, some sort of a beer garden on the arch.
I was just going to
totally.
say, we need,
They'd have a
we need
million
Arch
people.
Fest.
That's
Yeah.
Arch Fest.
Right.
Well, and the interesting thing,
And we could have it over the 4th of July weekend.
that's always been the problem. And in the 1980s, we published at the Riverfront Times a publication called Gateway Today, and it was 300,000 people passed through the arch. It's a free newspaper. It was a thing we did, and our advertisers, we were chosen because we had the advertisers. The advertisers west from basically 4th Street West got almost nothing from it, and the advertisers in the landing and the boats and the McDonald's, all those, if they advertised the helicopter tours, they were just bombarded with results.
That's
so
great.
we had got a scientific way to know if you had a restaurant at the mine shaft or something, it just didn't work, and so it really is true that it's been disconnected. But I think that it is. We should never underappreciate how important it is to, and I think you're absolutely
Our
right.
identity.
Trying to
And this sounds
support
crazy,
it.
but
It's
I still think we should polish the arch. I think we should try to bring it back to the way it looked the day that they put the last section in.
Okay, well, maybe we will.
No,
Wendy?
I would question that, Alvin. I mean, if we're spending money polishing the arch, really.
Well, that's federal government.
Yeah. That's not us. Wendy Wiese, St. Louis County is spending $300,000, or at least it voted to promote a tax increase in unincorporated St. Louis County to kind of give information about the benefits, I guess, maybe some drawbacks of this possible increase in the marijuana tax. Well, Tom Sullivan, government watchdog, has said that it's not legal and that government should not be spending money on referenda or ballot measures. I actually agree with Tom Sullivan. What do you think?
I think that you and Tom Sullivan are incredibly bright. I just think of the litigious nature of this particular industry, and I would want to cover my bases, and $300,000 doesn't seem like that much to ask or to spend to make sure that you're covering your bases and educating the public.
And at tenfold with the tax increase,
That's
it's
right.
worth the investment.
Look at Illinois.
Look, we gotta do this because the only reason we're actually doing it is not so people can just smoke marijuana anytime they want to. It's because we needed tax money.
And I just hope that they get the public relations firm, somebody from St. Louis. Instead of, we had SLDC hiring a Kansas City firm to publicize something. I think it's a good idea to publicize this, and we got plenty of local people who can get it done.
Right. And I'm not for wasting a dollar, but $350,000 is not that
Compared to
much
some of
money.
the other things
Yes.
that we've spent money on.
True. Polishing the yards.
Polishing the arts.
I don't know. I'm a little afraid when government gets involved in electoral ballot measures. It seems to me that there should be a Chinese wall between the government and spending and what's on the ballot in November.
Well, maybe, but if you're phrasing it like we're not telling you how to vote, we're just telling you if you vote a
This is
certain
what's
way,
gonna happen.
this is what's going to come into the county. I think that's fair.
I don't know what the Chinese have to do with it.
They have balloons, right?
It's an expression. Maybe
great
it's
wall.
an expression
They
I
have a
shouldn't
wall
use
and
anymore.
balloons. We know that. Right.
Okay. We hope you tear down that wall and join us at Donny Bash in June, and here are some of the details.
Hey again, I'm Martia Crowder, member of your experience manager right here at 9 PBS, and we're glad to have you tonight as we enjoy the spirited discussion as always. But guess what? There is quite the opportunity for you right now. If you become a member, give us a call or text GIVE to 800-568-9099 or go to the website 9pbs.org. That's NINE. pbs.org. So many letters. But if you go there right now, you become a member at the $75 level. So one time $75, you will receive the choice between the beloved 9 PBS mug. I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite mugs in my whole cabinet. Or you get a ticket to Donny Bash, which it's a tough choice because this is one of my very favorite events of the entire season. So that's at the $75 level. Then at the $12 a month level, you will receive, it's not a choice, you get a combo of 2 tickets and this mug. You do not want to miss this. I'm telling you, this event is incredible. It's at the Sheldon Concert Hall. It's Donny Bash. We love it so much. We have so much fun. It's on June 15th. At 6 p.m., you get to engage with the Donnybrokers, hear their conversation live in action. So those 2 levels, $75 one time or $12 a month, will get you a ticket to Donny Bash. And with each level, you get access to 9 PBS Passport, extended access to a wide variety of PBS programming on demand. So give us a call or text GIVE to 800-568-9099. Right now, let's go back to the table and enjoy a bit more of the discussion.
That's the kind of discussion we're going to have in June at Donny Bash. So we hope you join us by calling or texting 800-568-9099. It's a live broadcast where we mingle with you beforehand, and then there's the show, and then we mingle afterwards, and the bar is open, and it's a really fun time. That's the whole point. And we also raise a lot of money for 9 PBS, which provides all these commercial-free broadcasts like the one you're watching right now. So thank you in advance for your generosity.
And you know, there is something about the 9 PBS viewer. We encounter them constantly. We encounter you constantly, and we're very grateful for those encounters and to have you come up and identify yourself as a 9 PBS viewer, voracious viewer. But this is just such a fun way to feel like you're supporting the station, and it's that kind of sense of ownership, you know, when you have skin in the game. It's like, and this is just a big party, you know, there's no, it's just an absolutely fabulous evening. You're going to have more fun than you even realize.
It's a great Mother's Day gift.
Oh gosh, yes.
Father's Day
gift, birthday
it's not
gift.
Prohibitively expensive.
Right.
And it's something to do.
Right, exactly.
To get out.
To get out and
mingle.
with like-minded people. And people who disagree do so, in an agreeable way. It will restore a lot of your faith in humanity.
Right.
It really will.
And after we've done them for many years, and it didn't take long for me to be convinced that we are part of the evening, but people genuinely want to come because they want to support the station.
That's exactly
And
right.
we're kind of a throw-in. Yeah, it's
That's
a good
exactly
time,
right.
and we can
Yeah.
have the hors d'oeuvres and drinks. But the first thing we want to do is support Channel 9.
That's
So
right.
like, okay, we took care of that.
We're
Now
like the treat bag.
Yeah, it's just like,
you know,
it's
at the end of the birthday party. We're like the treat bag.
And I'm serious about that. I really thought, you know, they're here to see us, and they're here to see the show. But their first thought, people's first thought is, I really want to support the station.
That's
and it's
right.
that important. Like Ray has often pointed out, this station is very, very, very important no matter what year. It's really important right now. So,
Oh, boy.
You know.
Yep.
Well, I disagree with all that, but but no. And one thing not to forget, we talked about the Arch being underrated. I was the Sheldon is a treasure,
gosh.
and acoustically and in every respect.
There it
we
is.
sometimes take for granted in St. Louis that we have multiple venues like the Shelton, but really none like the Shelton. The Shelton is a treasure, and we should really enjoy. We're just honored to be part of it, but it's a great venue for this.
Great point. So pick up that phone, call or text to 800-568-9099, and we'll see you in June. Let's get back to our discussion. Before we wrap up the show, Bill, recently there were some pretty light sentences, in my opinion, that were handed out in both the county and the city. In the city, there was the case of this Demerol Bird, a fella who actually kept asking for all sorts of evidence and information to be handed to him by the circuit attorney. Didn't get that. He did kill 2 people and then just pleaded guilty and got 15 years for killing 2. Some people thought he should have gotten a lifetime sentence. In the county, there was a young guy about 20 years old who had been inhaling some substances, crashed his car into an urgent care worker in Baldwin, killed her, and he got 2 years. Another fella in Eureka ended up slashing a woman to death and then dumping her body in front of the firehouse. He got only 7 years. What's going on? Why are these sentences so light?
Well, in the city, that case, that was just dysfunction in the circuit attorney's office. They weren't ready for the trial. I mean, they didn't hand over to the defense the discovery items they were supposed to, and the judge sanctioned them and set another date, and they still didn't give it over, and so finally they just let the guy plead. And, you know, 2 murders and a voluntary manslaughter charge, I thought, that's just on the circuit attorney. In the county, that case where the kid was high on inhalants and killed that woman at the urgent care place and then threw the inhalants away. And Wesley Bell said that the toxicology, it's hard to prove that he was high on the inhalants. But that's the sort of case that I think Mr. Bell should have just taken to court anyway and let a jury decide and say, here's the evidence of what he did, and here's the inhalants, and he tried to throw them away. That's evidence to me. And, you know, maybe the jury would say that's not enough, but I think that case should have gone to court. And I don't understand the Eureka case.
Well, and I was confused by the fact that the parents seemed to be okay with the total access, the young woman being killed and the inhalants involved, that the parents were okay with that. 2 years. I'm sure there's obviously more to that story, Bill, but how hard is it for us to change? You know, we've learned so much about the legal system over the course of the last however many years, and the fact that what we think is a slam dunk just isn't necessarily a slam dunk. So what would it take to change those toxicology restrictions or limitations, or make it easier to prove?
They'll probably do that scientifically, you know, especially with marijuana legalized now.
Oh, yeah.
They'll work out some way they can do it.
But okay, but if you had drank a case of beer and they, you know, tested you and you were just obviously just rip-roarously drunk and you hit this person, chances are you probably wouldn't go to jail. I mean, you'd be in a whole lot of trouble, but if it was the first incident like this, you might not go to jail.
If you killed a person, I think you would.
You think?
Yeah,
okay, all right.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but now, maybe I've just watched too much Law and
Leonard
Order since 1992, but you murder somebody and we're pleading folks out at 7.5 years each, like, oh, no. I don't care if I was running for county, city, whatever. I said, like, if you murder somebody, don't think that you're getting out of here with less than 20 years. I mean, I'm not pleading anybody out at 7 years. That's not happening. I mean, that's just no.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we got to that as far as killing people was concerned.
Well, let's get your name on a ballot.
I don't have well, I guess you don't have to have a law degree to be the prosecutor by definition. Right.
My guess is they all sound outrageous on the face to me, just like they did everybody else. Usually there's more to the story than meets the eye. And I know that doesn't, I don't certainly want to question our role, because it's you know, it's easier to criticize and create, which is why I've devoted my life to criticizing other people. So it's, my guess is that there's good reason Wesley Bell didn't just get soft on crime. And I understand, Bill. Reasonable people disagree. You may be really right that they should have taken it to trial, but very seldom do these light sentences come just because somebody felt sorry for the defendant. I think it's more. I'm not saying never, but I think more likely there are problems. Getting a conviction,
Okay.
and that's I'm guessing.
Thank you. I want to ask you, Alvin, about a measure that I believe passed the House this week in Jefferson City, and it's called open enrollment. It means that up to 3% of students from a school district can move to another school district, go from one school to another, maybe because they like the theater program or the softball team or whatever the case is. School districts do not have to accept these students, but it would mean that these kids would go, and with them the state dollars, which a lot of superintendents are saying that'll put us in a terrible position because our property tax revenues aren't enough to begin with, and then we'll be losing the state dollars. What do you think of open enrollment?
Well, okay. I am not a big fan, but because you put some parameters on it, the percentages and all that, I'm just thinking that, okay, well, who's going to move where and why? And if you can help one student, let alone maybe 100 a year, I think that's a good thing, and I can't necessarily turn my back on that. Is this a great plan? No, it's not. But you hit the nail on the head. This is going to be the transfer program for athletes in the St. Louis area. And what you're going to have to watch is what schools, like, hey, I've got a 3.0 student who's doing really well in like a city school district, and somehow they can't find a school to go to, but the guy with the 1.0 who can run the football is going to end up, going to a county high school. So I think that needs to be watched very, very closely.
Well, because we know parents are always so rational and level-headed when it comes to their children and the opportunities that maybe are denied to them because of somebody else's abilities or the what have you. We've seen these school board meetings. I'm with you, but I think it's kind of fraught with peril.
Whose idea was this? Whose idea was this?
The states?
Yeah.
I hear you what you're saying,
It's generally coming from people who want to dismantle public education, in my opinion. So I think it's a bad idea just on, maybe it's a bias going in, a prison, but I don't think it's, I think...
You think it's school choice and lambs or...
Yeah, I think it's all part of the same effort.
I agree
in general, and
But you go from public school to public school.
I get
and
it.
Who we kidding? Nobody from Clayton is going to say like, "Hey, I can go to city school now." All right. If it's public school to public school,
I get it. I'm very suspicious of it.
I think areas with low property taxes are going to really suffer. They're going to go to the districts that seem to do better. Ray, Kansas City does have some of the NCAA March Madness this year.
Yeah.
But we did beat them out in a recent Wallet Hub poll for cities with the best St. Patrick's Day festivities.
Yes.
Saturday is the big parade in downtown St. Louis, and Patrick Murphy, formerly of 9 PBS, he still might be with us. He's the honorary Grand Marshal.
Right.
But apparently, St. Louis has better festivities around St. Patrick's Day than Kansas City. Are you happy?
Well, I'm delighted. It's clickbait, of course, but while I think we were rated 65th in the country, and Kansas City was 69th. But I think more significantly, I thought they had their little arbitrary criteria and stuff. And for some reason, they had us ranked ahead of Kansas City under the area of security and safety. And I thought, well, that's, that narrative should be sent to the folks in Jefferson City who, by the way, have control of the Kansas City Police Department, just to let them know that the idea of state control of local police departments, whether in St. Louis, is a joke. And the idea that the state somehow can do a better job controlling the police department, that's the significance I would
If I could get back to the St. Patrick's Day.
That's the important.
We do have a good St. Patrick's Day celebration.
I was surprised we were only 65th.
I mean,
me too.
The Dogtown Parade has that authenticity to it. Downtown is just a big party.
Yeah.
I think we do St. Patrick's.
And St. Charles now, right?
And how did we get? I mean, aren't we one of the tippy tops in terms of like Mardi Gras celebration?
Yeah,
So
here
why
we
would
are.
there,
Number of people involved.
Right.
Okay,
inside
so
the
why
parade.
would we be 65th?
I don't get that either because I looked at the list, and then one of the things is you start looking on there, and like Fairbanks, Alaska's.
Oh,
before
wow.
us,
Well,
and
I'm not
right.
defending.
No,
it,
I hear you on
Boston
that.
was #1 for some reason,
Well,
for some reason,
and that makes
right.
sense. No, but I think that as a beer town, this is to Bill's point. This is we should be probably in the face of Wallet Hub a little for not giving us the credit for really having a. I think we were ranked high in tradition. I think we're in the top 25 in the tradition.
Well, let's face it.
but,
What
you
does
know.
Wallet Hub know
That's
about
exactly
anything?
right.
What do they know about beer, for one?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. Maybe Wallet Hub can join us for Donnie Bash or write a letter to the show, as these viewers did. Sorry to say this, folks, but your Donnie Bash promos are overkill. They take up too much broadcast time, way too long. That from Dan Duncan of Calverton Park. Sandra Walsh of St. Louis wrote, Bill said he left Crown Candy when he heard nearby gunfire. I left Crown Candy when I saw the owner's large poster on the front door advertising a gun rally in Jefferson City. Andrew Podleski of Florissant wrote, last week the panel started with a discussion of the traffic problem in St. Louis. One only has to look at the automobile manufacturers for a cause. Almost all of them advertise their cars with people racing up and down empty streets. The message, obviously, is that it's okay to race around like an idiot. Thank you, Mr. Podleski. Others can write us, care of 9PBS, 3655 Olive Street, 63108. We like those emails, donnybrook@9pbs.org. And those tweets, use hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line at 314-512-9094 and listen to us on your favorite podcast source. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn. That's this week's program. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to make those reservations for Donnie Bash. We'll see you next week.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.